if I told you that a group of enslaved people, bound and shackled, chose to walk into the water and drown rather than live a life of bondage? But here's the twist. Some say they didn't drown. Some say they flew. This is the story of Igbo Landing, a haunting tale of defiance, spirituality, and the unbreakable will of a people who refuse to bow even in the face of unimaginable despair. By the end of this video, you might just find yourself questioning what's real, what's myth, and how much power lies in a single act of rebellion. To truly understand what happened at Igbo Landing, we must first step back into one of the darkest chapters of human history: the transatlantic slave trade. By the late 18th and early 19th centuries, millions of Africans were being forcibly taken from their homelands and shipped across the Atlantic Ocean, packed into suffocating, disease-ridden boats. Many wouldn't survive the journey. Those who did would find themselves sold into brutal labor, their identities stripped, and their spirits crushed. Among these individuals were the Igbo people, a proud and resilient ethnic group from what is now southeastern Nigeria. Known for their fierce independence and deep spirituality, the Igbo had a reputation for resisting domination even in the face of insurmountable odds. And it was this spirit, this refusal to accept servitude, that shaped the events of Igbo Landing. In 1803, a group of Igbo captives was sold to European slave traders and transported across the Atlantic. They survived the horrors of the Middle Passage, but their ordeal was far from over. Upon arrival in Savannah, Georgia, they were purchased by American traders who intended to take them to plantations on St. Simon's Island. The journey continued aboard a small vessel called the York. Imagine the scene: the Igbo, chained together in silence, staring out at the horizon, their minds racing with thoughts of home. They had been torn from their land, their families, and their gods. But in their hearts, they carried something their captors could never take: an unyielding belief in their own freedom, even if it meant death. As the York sailed towards St. Simon's Island, something extraordinary happened. The Igbo captives, led by their chiefs, staged a rebellion. Shackled and crowded on the ship, they somehow managed to overpower the crew, seizing control of the vessel. The details of the fight are lost to history, but one can imagine the chaos: the clanging of chains, the shouts of resistance, the struggle for survival. For a brief moment, the Igbo captives had reclaimed their agency, but their victory was bittersweet. They were still trapped in a foreign land, surrounded by marshes and creeks, with nowhere to escape. And they knew that recapture was inevitable. What happened next would transform these individuals into legends. According to oral histories passed down through generations, the Igbo captives made a fateful decision. Rather than submit to a life of enslavement, they marched hand in hand into the waters of Dunbar Creek. They sang as they walked, their voices rising above the sound of the waves. One of the lines, as translated by historians, was said to mean, "The water spirits brought us here, and the water spirits will take us home." It was a moment of profound defiance, a refusal to let their captors define their fate. For the Igbo, this was not just an act of rebellion. It was a spiritual journey, a return to the ancestors, to freedom, to the divine. But here's where the story takes an even more fascinating turn. Some say the Igbo captives didn't drown. According to African American folklore, they transformed. They rose from the water and flew back to Africa, carried by the spirits of their ancestors. This myth of the flying Africans is one of the most enduring legends in African American culture. It's been passed down through generations, a powerful reminder of the resilience and spiritual strength of enslaved Africans. Could it be true? Could the Igbo captives at Igbo Landing have truly transcended the physical world? Or was this a way for their descendants to make sense of such a tragic and heroic event? To understand the deeper meaning of Igbo Landing, we have to explore the spiritual beliefs of the Igbo people. In Igbo cosmology, Life and death are not opposites. They are part of a cycle. Death is not an end, but a transition to the spirit world where one reunites with ancestors and the divine. Water, in particular, holds special significance. It's seen as a boundary between the physical and spiritual realms, a place where life begins and ends. By walking into the water, the Igbo captives were not simply escaping slavery, they were undertaking a sacred journey home. This act was a profound assertion of their humanity, their dignity, and their belief in something greater than themselves. The myth of Igbo Landing didn't end with the captives' deaths. It became a symbol of resistance, a story passed down through oral tradition, songs, and art. Over the years, it has inspired countless works, from Toni Morrison's novel Song of Solomon to Beyoncé's visual album Lemonade. But perhaps its most profound impact is the way it continues to resonate with people fighting for freedom and justice today. Igbo Landing is not just a story about the past, it's a story about the present, about the enduring struggle for human dignity and self-determination. While the story of Igbo Landing is rooted in oral tradition, there is historical evidence to support it. A report from 1803 by Roswell King, a white overseer, describes a group of enslaved Africans who drowned themselves in Dunbar Creek. However, the details remain murky. How many people were involved? Did they all drown, or did some survive? And how much of the story has been shaped by myth and memory? These questions continue to fascinate historians and folklorists alike. But perhaps the truth lies not in the details, but in the power of the story itself. In many ways, Igbo Landing is as relevant today as it was in 1803. It speaks to the universal desire for freedom, the strength of cultural identity, and the power of collective action. It's a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable oppression, people can find ways to resist, to reclaim their dignity, and to inspire future generations. The story of Igbo Landing is not just about the past, it's about the enduring fight for justice, equality, and the right to live free. And so, the story of Igbo Landing leaves us with more questions than answers. Did they drown? Did they fly? Or did they simply transcend the chains that tried to bind them? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. But one thing is clear: their defiance echoes across centuries, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of a people who refused to be enslaved. What does their story mean to you? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this story as fascinating and haunting as I did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep uncovering the legends that shape our world.